So welcome again. So Cheyenne's here as well, and Cheyenne's part of, I'll introduce myself. I am the manager of the community program delivery team, and Cheyenne is one of our team members, and Cheyenne is working currently on our activity guide in Canva itself, one of our activity guides for our kits. So we'll both be presenting from our own expertise with Canva. And although we can't claim to be graphic designers, Lindsay's the expert at our organization, but we're sort of the teachers. So we're going to share some wisdom and then also just do the hands-on in Canva, which is the fun. So first of all, what is graphic design? Well, Lindsay touched, and I'm going to be pretty quick with these slides, by the way, too, because I really want us to get hands-on, because that's how we learn these tools. So, and you can put in the chat if you have any, experience with Canva, or if you're having difficulty getting online. Cheyenne is also here to help support with the chat, and Cheyenne will interrupt me if there's a question that needs to be addressed to the whole group, or respond perhaps just to the group or to yourself, and if you're having any difficulties or have any direct Canva questions. So please make use of that chat. Also feel free just to unmute and ask me. So what is graphic design? It's a very creative process. It depends a lot on layout and composition and color. So graphic design is the art of using visual elements, typography, and color to convey a message. It's about communication, interpretation, and attraction. And I want you also to think about, because today's job, of course, is working with Canva with logos, and it was wonderful that Lindsay was able to show some of the logos she's designed, because that was great to see, right? Her what she had created. But I want you to think about other logos that you're aware of or that impact your life a lot, and I want you to think about the color behind them, the symbols, the shapes they use, perhaps the words if there is a word, and what that impact is on you with those logos, and what the story they convey, because that's how you're going to think about designing your own. You're going to draw upon that personal experience of what you like and don't like about logos you've experienced. So there are some basic principles of design. You've got your design space, and for a logo, it's a very small space, and you want it to be very simple and clear. So you want to think about these elements as you're designing your logo, and they're almost more important. I mean, they're always important, but there's just like a short story. A small space requires a lot more effort, a lot more intention to make it work well. So you want to think about balancing the elements in your design space, and that should also, it doesn't necessarily mean symmetry, but it means balance of space, color, impact, and weight as well, how you want to weight different elements, and it also includes white space or blank space. Alignment and proximity can create communication about association of ideas. When you put things close together versus apart, they can perhaps be juxtaposed. You want to be intentional about doing that. Contrast as well. And you want to think about where the eye is drawn, and you can use lines and contrast to make that happen. Repetition and consistency, or harmony and disharmony, again, to create effect and communicate. And your overall design space, which again with the logo is very small, so we have to be very, very intentional, and it's almost more about what you don't include as to what you include, and everything you do include has to be well worth its inclusion in its space. So I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on this. Some of the design principles, it just sort of exemplifies the different layouts that you can use, and if interested, we can share this later as a PDF, but I also want to show you that within Canva itself, there's a ton of learning tools. So I'll show you those before we dive in ourselves. So there's some color wheels, and you can think about how colors match together. And Lindsay kind of showed how she was playing with color as she began her career as a graphic designer. And Canva itself also has some tools, which I will show you, that you can access that can help you create a palette or modify a palette that works well for the message you want to convey. I'm just going to pop through those. Here's a couple of logos, some that we're familiar with, some less familiar with. Apple, of course, and this was one of their special campaigns where they have this colored one versus just the plain silver white. Nike, and I don't think we have time, but if anyone's interested, I'll put the link in the chat later. There's a whole article I found about the symbolism behind the Nike symbol and the history of it, and it's actually really interesting. This grimace one here on the left kind of shows a little bit of lines and how you can use lines and straight lines and curved lines to draw the eye into a space. This one is using the Fibonacci arrangement to help focus the eye and attention in a specific way. And let's think specifically about a logo. The logo purpose is to use symbols to tell your story. And this is a quote directly from the Canva learning tools. It clarifies and codifies everything you stand for, everything you want to be, and everything you want to communicate. That's pretty powerful with this tiny little space. So you want to keep thinking about that as you design your logo. Today, we're just going to play. Don't worry about trying to come up with the logo. Today is about learning the tools in Canva and beginning to play with some of the concepts behind logos. It also needs to communicate your story immediately, clearly, and confidently. And those 3 words are, again, a quote from James Gilmore. Parts of a logo, you might have a symbol and or a word mark. If you do have a word mark, fonts are important. And as I'm sure we all know, different fonts convey different moods and feelings, shapes and colors, and they all work together to tell the story of your brand. And again, it's like a very short story. There's a quote about writing short stories that if there's a gun on the mantelpiece or something in the depiction of the space, that gun has to figure in the story. Same thing with your logo. Anything you put in that logo has to really be worth its weight and have a message. Okay, so I'm going to stop that share and we're going to dive into Canva. So I hope that you are all set up with Canva. Again, please make sure you put things in the chat if you're having difficulties or questions. I won't be able to monitor that at the same time as there's too many things I'm looking at, but Cheyenne definitely will and will respond to you or let me know that there's something we need to deal with. So please use that space. And I'm just going to get my screen ready here to share. And we'll dive right into Canva. You could also put into the chat if you wanted to, if you've used Canva before, what your experience has been with Canva. We'd love to hear about that experience as well. And I'm going to start here. So this is the home. Once you've created an account, this is one I'm sharing with the org. So you can see here, you can actually have shared accounts as well. And a newer feature is that you can actually collaborate on design. So if you wanted to create a design and then share it with someone to get their feedback or work together on something, you can do that now just through a link. You don't even need to be in the same account. So it's really cool. So as you can see up here, there's this learn, there's home, templates, and there's a million templates. And I recommend that you really explore them because you could go directly to a template and modify it. We'll start there when we start playing. But also they just give you really good ideas about what makes a good, poster or logo or whatever. Those templates can really be useful. Features, you can really connect right out. And as Lindsay was saying, you can mock up in certain ways your logo to see how that looks in different spaces. So that's very, very cool. And again, free, all these free features. Like I've only ever had a free account and I've used it I'm a media artist on the side and I've used it for branding for myself, creating my own, designing my own business cards, etc. So it can be a really useful tool. And then learning, there's a ton of learning features. So it's really, really well worth diving into if you're really interested in graphic design. So I'm going to click onto a new tab. And what I want you to do right now is just look with me or yourself as well. You could put up here and search Canva, you can put logo, and it will bring you to this space where you get to see all their, you get to see all their templates that they're suggesting you can use. And I just want us to think about just really briefly and quickly, because I want us to start creating. Because I think we were even thinking 3:15 might have been the break, but I'll let Leslie and Sheena sort of guide there for that. But in terms of the break time, I think we could keep going, I think, at this point. But just thinking about those points that we had in the presentation about the use of a symbol and or a word mark, colors, fonts, how they all work together. They should communicate clearly, immediately, and confidently the story of the brand. I want you to just kind of scroll through, and I'm going to do it here. If you're not actually on Canva, you can look here on the screen and just kind of scrolling through and thinking about those points, and take a look at the templates that are here available for you to modify. You know, and some of them will appeal to you, and some of them will say, oh, that doesn't appeal to me at all, because of course we all have our own ideas, and it will also need to match whatever it is that you know, your story. Obviously it works together to tell the story, and you can feel there's definitely certain different feels. Now you can see as I hover, I'm hoping you can see this, some of them will say that they're free, and then others will say on the corner pro, and they do involve paying for them. So you just, to be able to stay in the free account, you just need to keep using the free features, and just sort of pay attention to that you'll have certain choices and other choices won't be available to you. Canva. And this time we're going to start from scratch and use a few of the other tools that we haven't used yet. So we were playing with this Forest Lakes. Let's see the original nice simplified one before I started messing with it and adding too many elements. And here's the spot at which I want you to start thinking intentionally about your design. Again, today is not about designing your logo fully. That's, I think, something that you need to take time and energy on, sort of probably independently or with some research and thought. But today you can start thinking about that at least. So first of all, start with what's your story? What is the logo supposed to convey and communicate? And that, you know, you want to include sort of the color and the mood and the effect. You want to start pretty well with colors, I would think. I mean, you may also have some shape ideas. You definitely need to start with the story. And as I scroll slowly up, I'm going up to the top where it says blank one, and that's what I want you to choose on. But just kind of be thinking about the choices you want to make, and which of these sort of that we're going past resonate with you, might give you some ideas or some support for your own logo in terms of color palettes, etc. You know, they're very different. Obviously, this game gear and gadgets versus the Vera Virtual, those are two very, very different messages and impact and moods that are being conveyed. And then if we look next to it at Road Tuner and then Express, you know, there's a whole gamut of different impact and different messages that are conveyed simply through this small little space of color, word, font, and symbol. So we're going to go all the way up to the top as we're thinking about these things. Start thinking about your story. You might want to test out some of the things that you're thinking about when we do this next exercise. We're going to go to create a blank logo, and we're going to click on the plus sign there. And it will bring you back to the same interface we were in a few moments ago when we were modifying, and hopefully my internet is going to play nicely and come on. There we go. It's coming slowly but surely. I can get rid of some of the things I have open, and that will probably be helpful. I have very poor internet because I live in remote Ontario. So here we are with our blank workspace. And again, we were talking about weight and balance, proximity, and association, how close things are to each other, whether they overlap. Thinking about balance of the space, balance of the elements, doesn't mean symmetry necessarily. It just means weighting out so that one part isn't heavier, too heavy or too much that it grabs your attention without balancing it elsewhere. It's this nice interplay of all of the elements. So we have the blank space. Right now we have template showing, but I want to actually just start from scratch. So we're going to go first of all the background. Let's start from the very bottom and build upwards. So we're going to go to background. Please tap there, and you can see that there's a ton of different choices, and all you have to do is just tap one. Make sure it says free. I mean, they'll let you use the ones that cost money right now just to play. What they won't allow you to do is download and share it. You can see up here on the top right where you can see download or share, and if it's an element that's asking you to pay, it won't allow you to do that. So just tap on a couple and just test and see what that looks like. There we go. There's one. Oh, my internet is very slow. Okay, there's another one. And again, be very mindful of the fact that remember that whatever is in your logo. It's a very small, concentrated space. It has to be well worth the weight it's taking up, the space it's taking up. And you also don't want it to be too much of a distraction. So this kind of a background probably isn't going to work very well because it's too busy. You know, if that fits my brand, that might be something I use elsewhere in a newsletter or something, but it's not for the logo. You really want sort of basics. So I'm going to go up here to the gradients, and I'm going to choose one of the gradients. And I suggest you do the same, but try out, find a background that you think you'd like to play with. So I'm going to choose this one. So once you have a background selected, we're going to go to, I want you to think next about whether you're going to include a word mark, so therefore you need typography, or if you're just going to use a symbol. So we're going to start first of all with getting a symbol from the graphics. You might have drawn your own, you can upload, and I'm going to show you how to do that in a moment. But let's work with the graphics that they've provided with us for right now, just to test. So we're going to go back up to that Elements tab, and we're going to see, it comes up with my recently used, which is really useful and helpful. You can actually sort of build your own little collections, and that's really useful. Next time we'll look at photos, but this time I just want to choose a graphic. So I'm going to go to Graphics, See All. And up here now it gives me the all photos, graphics, videos, and audio, but I'm going to stick it just on the graphics tab. And because this is a logo that sometimes might be digital, but it might also be something that you're going to be printing and putting on some kind of material, you probably want to choose a still graphic rather than something that is animated. And again, just hover over to see if it's a free one or if they're going to ask you for some kind of payment. It just shows up underneath it when you tap on it. So I'm going to choose, oh, my internet is getting grumpy with me here. I'm going to choose this one. It's going to show up. And then I like this little magic recommendations. Because I've chosen this, it comes up with some other suggestions of things I might want to use instead, or as well as. But because I'm keeping this really simple, I'm just going to choose this one. I'm going to rotate it a little, and I'm going to replace it, change where I'm placing it. And I want it to be, it's a little bit off center there. I've rotated it a little bit. I think I'll rotate it a little bit more. And I've sized it, but I might come back to the sizing after I add some words, because I've decided that for my logo and for us to play today, I would like us to add some words as well. So we have here a simple graphic. So hopefully you've chosen a graphic already. Next, we're going to go left to the left menu where it says text, and tap on that, and that opens up the text menu. And you get some font combinations showing up, which is really nice. There's people who are really into fonts and graphic designers have worked to match font families that kind of work together to convey a certain mood or message. And they're often different kinds of fonts, but they're paired together. And they really, you know, I can say that I wouldn't necessarily think of these combinations, but a lot of them work really well. And again, you have to watch. These are pro. So for instance, this game over one, you can see it's pro. That means I would need to pay. So a sale, but game on here is free. So you can choose one of these and then just change it, like modify it. So they've already, like for instance, this dazzle one. I can tap on that and I can choose where I want it to be on my logo. And then I can just change the word. So I could put the word here. I can change it to whatever word I want. And similarly down below, now this is a different, if I tap on this one, I can see that this is called Glacial Indifferent, is the font that they've chosen to work here. And they've chosen this size. I could change that size if I wanted to. And they also have it white in background. I could change the fill color if I wanted to, just by tapping. I could change it. Going to go back to, I'm going to undo that change and keep it the way it was. But you can change it. You can make it bold, italic, and you can also animate it. Again, because this is a logo that for now, I want it to be something I could use in many different ways in different places. I'm not going to work with animation, but there could be places where you do want animation and you could add that effect. If we tap on that, you can see that some of the choices it will demonstrate for you just by hovering over them. It's kind of a fun feature, especially if you are on, a digital platform where it could show, it could really get some attention. I'm going to choose none though for right now. You can also animate your entire page. All the parts of your page can do animations to come together. And again, depending on where you're placing this logo, that might be appropriate, but I'm going to stick with none. So I'm going to go back to my text here and change eau de parfum. I want to change the words there. I'm going to say make, heavens to Betsy. I'm going to come up with make your place. And when I tap on this one, it's going to show me that, oh, I'm still in animations. I'm going to get out of animations there. It's going to show me that the size that it is, the font that it is, and all the other aspects of it. You can also change the alignment, and you can play with all of those tools. If I tap on the three little dots, it's going to show up, it's going to reveal all the menu items that are hidden at the moment because the interface isn't showing all of them, but those same positions are there. I can send it forward or backward. If I had, for instance, if I had this over the K and I wanted the K to be in front, I can make sure that the K is in front by tapping those three little dots and choosing position. Again, I can get it to align in this way, or I can send it backwards, and then I could actually have the graphic design come to the front. You can also copy the style and apply that style elsewhere. Some other really important tools, so that's what the roller is for. I could also change the transparency of this. I can link it, and again, that might be really interesting depending again on where you're putting your logo. But if it's a digital logo, you could potentially take advantage of linking and have, when somebody taps, they get taken. It's like a portal. They get taken somewhere else on the internet. You can also group things and lock them. So if I've decided that make belongs there and I don't want it to move, I can lock that feature and it's not going to move and I can't make any more changes to it. If I want to, and this is interesting too, I'm noticing here we've got this comment has shown up because I have this selected. I can make a comment if I was working collaboratively with someone or wanting feedback or providing feedback. You can put comments right on the work, similar to a Google Drive document, and that's a really great way to work together with someone else. And you can see that my lock symbol has shown up and it says this element can't be edited. When I hover over, I can unlock it just by tapping. Oh, my internet's being slow. I'll try the undo. There we go, we're back. Okay, and I would be able to, I can edit it again. So again, undo is your friend often, redo if I wanted to relock it. And then you can also just tap to unlock. If I wanted to copy it and duplicate it, I can go here. I can change it all to uppercase, which it is, or change it to mixed, and I can underline it if I wanted to with those extra menu items. Okay, so this is really simple. We've chosen a background. We've got one single graphic. We've got some words because we've decided that we wanted to have words, a word mark it's called, as well as the graphic. If we wanted to use photos, it's a little bit different. So we're going to go back and I want to make sure that you see how to use photos and also how you can upload your own images that you want to include. So if we wanted to take this graphic out, I'm just going to select it and then hit delete. And now I'm going to go to elements and photos. Now, My internet's being slow. There we go. There will be lots of different photos will show up. A neat thing that you can do with photos before you even get to the photo choice is that you can choose a frame for it. And that would be really important for a logo, because you don't really want the photo to take up the full space. Right now, if I chose a photograph, for instance, this one, I could certainly resize it. I can drag it around where I want it to be, but I might want to confine it into a frame. So I'm going to take that off, and I'm going to go, oops, there we go. I'm going to just delete that one again. I'm going to go back to all elements. And if you scroll down lower, you can find frames and grids. I'm going to choose this. I'm going to choose the round frame. And I'm going to size it so it's not, you can see that a line is shown up saying it's just above half and it's not overlapping my words. I like it this way. I'm going to go back over to up above and select photos. And notice there's two different ways to get your photo in, and one will bring it into the frame and one will just bring it in as a different element. If I just tap it, it's just going to come in as another element. If, however, I want it to fill the frame, I'm going to actually drag it over. And you can see that it goes inside the frame. So I'm going to undo that, and I'm going to drag again. And the other thing you can do, whoops, oh, I went too quickly there. The other thing you can do is choose how much of the photo shows up in that frame. Right now it's cropped this way, but you can choose which part of the photo you want to have show up in your frame. And then you can resize, you can rotate, you can place that around. The other nice thing you can do, and as we talked about, is it might be important to change the transparency. First of all, I'm going to change the color inside my wake so that we can demonstrate this a little bit better. I'm going to make it the blue color, I think. And then let's work on this photograph. Right now we can't really see that make, but if I select the photograph and I select transparency, I can change the transparency so that the make becomes more of the object of interest, and we don't see the photograph quite as much, so our attention isn't drawn by it. I'm not saying that this is a good particular, I'm not sure that this works. I think I would play with it more, but to demonstrate the tools, this is a good way to see the difference it makes, because now we can see that make. I think I would continue to play if I was going to choose this, but I'm just playing right here. So the other thing I wanted to show is how you can bring in your own photographs. I'm going to drag this photograph over here, and I'm just going to, actually I'm going to get rid of it. I'm going to start fresh. Here's my frame is still there, and I've resized it. I'm going to have it overlap that make right now. And if we go to on the far left menu, you can see uploads. I'm going to upload media. I've got a couple of things that I was working on. If I wanted this one, again, if I tap, it just comes in a separate element. I'm going to delete that. If I dragged it over, it would fill my frame. But I actually want to upload another photo. So I'm going to go to upload media, and I'm going to go, it will open up your computer, and I'm going to go to my downloads where I had something ready, and I've got 2 photos here. And I'm going to upload one of them, and hopefully the internet will play nicely and bring it in quickly enough. You'll see that there's a line underneath, and you can actually see the fun little filling graphic that they have set up. Right now it's just really low, and it's going to take a few moments to fill. So hopefully we can keep working without having to depend on that. But once that's filled, I can use that in the same way, and I can just drag it over here into my frame or add it in as a different element, change the position, change the transparency, and you really want to think about how you're making these things work together. The background, the color, the palettes, your fonts, your symbols. And you may not want a word mark, you may want to just have a symbol, or you may want to have just a word mark. Or one of the examples that they gave, I think, in the Canva tutorial was the FedEx, that there's actually a symbol hidden inside the wording, the word mark of FedEx, which is an arrow. And I've never actually noticed that before, but that was kind of interesting. So we're halfway full. and I'm hoping that's going to continue working on that. I wanted to show you that they also have compiled some styles that work together for you in terms of palettes or fonts. So I'm going to tap down here on the far left. I'm going to leave this and hopefully it'll just continue to do that on its own. I'm going to tap on the more, and when it comes, I will be able to, you can see all the different things that you can connect right out to. You can get some apps and integrations, photos, audio, videos, and folders. So probably not for a logo, but you might be interested in some of the videos that you can use in a different situation. Same thing with audio, although in a digital space, an audio or video addition to a logo could be a lot of fun, and photos as well. And I'm going to go back up here. Above this, you can see we've got logos. That's actually things that our organization has uploaded, but they've added their own folder and you can work on that. Charts are an option, probably not for a logo, but again, just to know the tools. And I saw from the comments that a lot of people had worked on some really cool projects with Canva. So that's great. I'm glad you've got this experience already. I'm going to come up here to this one that says styles. And this is where we'll find, you can separate it and see it, all of the things that they've brought together. That includes the colors and the fonts together. If you're just interested in color palettes, you can just choose colors. And they have a whole bunch of different palettes they've come up with as suggestions, and fonts, again, that work together. So here we've got these two very different looking fonts, but they work together to convey a certain message. Fonts are really, really important, and you'll notice as you start playing with them what a difference it makes when you pop one in and you think, oh, no, that doesn't work, or yes, that really works. And you can just, you know, you can really explore and play, and you would just tap on it and it's changed. If you can see now, my Make Your Place has changed into a very, very different look of font. If I click on this one, again, you can see it's a different space. It's a little bit more like what I had originally, but it's much more square and utilitarian the Make than the sort of the more natural looking one that was originally. Okay, so I'm going to go back up to the uploads because I think it's finished now. Yeah, we can see that it's no longer having that little fill graphic. I have my image here and I can just drag it, as we talked about, into my frame, and I can let go. And then when I click on that, I have choices of edit image, crop, flip, and animate. So if we just explore some of these for a moment, if I look at edit image, I can add shadows, I can add different filters, I can adjust the brightness, contrast, and saturation separately than just the transparency, which will take away the entire, make it more transparent or opaque, the entire picture sort of in a balanced way. But you could also do this, you can also affect the brightness, contrast, or saturation separately. You can add some filters, they've got some there. Here's those smart mock-ups that part of what Lindsay was speaking about, different shadows that you can do, different filters I could apply. And I know these are intense on the internet, so you might want to play with that when you're not streaming if you're on the same machine. And there's a lot of different weird effects you can apply as well. Some of these are beta, and they just add different effects. You can also crop that, crop the image, and then that's where you can choose how much of the image you want to show and how much you want to have sort of taking up the space of the frame and the balance of that. This doesn't work the way it is right now. I would certainly want to edit that out and crop that so that I can change that. If I come back over to the original photo over here in my uploads, you can see there's 3 little dots. It gives me, I can rename it. So if you have a lot of images that you're adding, or if you're working in different folders and different projects, you can rename, you can move to a folder and make folders for projects. You can download your original. If you, yes, and I'm getting the message, my internet is pathetic. Okay, so I will close things if needed. Please let me know if it breaks up and you're not able to follow. But there are a lot of different choices. within your uploads. You can also upload videos and your own audio. You can actually also record yourself right in Canva. I don't know if you've explored that, but it will actually do a little video recording there that you can then use. Again, with being a logo, probably not the best choice right now, but for other projects, it might be appropriate. So I don't know if anyone's had any questions to date, but please do put them in the chat. Oh yeah, thank you. FedEx has an arrow in between the E and the X. Yes, and I'd never really actually noticed that before. And yes, amazing how much symbolism can be packed into it. Because when you think about it, those graphics, let's go back to those elements. And if we open up the graphics again, you know, they give you a lot of free ones. Actually, there's a lot of choice, and you can just see the design that's gone into these is just beautiful. If I take this graphic, and I'm going to get rid of my photo and my frame, and if I brought in this graphic, which will slowly show up, hopefully. And the magic recommendations has changed. There it is. You know, what a difference this makes in terms of the color, and I could play with the background and it would give a very different feel. And they've given you a lot of choices. You know, and even just if you play with, and I hope you are exploring this on your own, if you play with juxtaposing and putting close to or farther away or making smaller or larger to balance things out, it's amazing how much difference, even with the same, even if you're working with the same elements, just by rearranging them or changing the sizing or changing how close they are to each other, changing the colors. You know, if I went back and changed my background color, or you know, what a different effect that would make. A very, very different feel, isn't it now? And now you can't even see this one, but it's a very, very different different feel. You can change the transparency of that background as well. Let's see, it's already set at 70, but I could make it even lighter. And that took away some of the gradient effect and the texture effect, I think. But, you know, maybe I like the colors, but I didn't want that other effect. And it's a completely different message from the other background. And all I've changed is that background color. So wondering how everybody's doing here, how they're doing with attention, or if any questions. I'm cognizant of the fact that I don't want us to go too long. And Leslie, I see you're coming. I'm just plugging in here. What do you think, Leslie?
We can field some questions just to top it all off. If you feel like you've gone through everything needed to create a logo, I feel like there was lots of great information in here, especially when it comes to logo making, and then above and beyond with adding in photos and how you can apply those logos to mock stuff up like Lindsay did to show like the logo on the coffee bag, and can really bring like lots of life into your logos. So does anyone have any questions for Mary?